Hi, and welcome to Nothing is Rocket Science, a podcast where we talk about the science behind everyday things and some of the difficult, complicated aspects. If you've really been curious about what's happening in the world or curious about particular things, this is probably the right place for you to come understand what's and whys of you know anything. Today we have with us Ms. Nidhi Parekh. She is a founder and the lead researcher of the Shared Microscope. She is a freelance science writer and content creator who has undertaken work for various clients, including Johnson& and Johnson, Kaplan Nursing, etc. Um, Nidhi has also given lectures and workshops about science communication, COVID-19 vaccines. Um, She's been doing this on her blogs and also to students at the University of Rochester and McMaster University. More recently, she's been writing about the COVID-19 vaccines to raise awareness on how they work, and her articles have garnered a readership of over 30,000 readers internationally. She has a degree in biomedicine from the University of East Anglia and also a degree in law from BBP University London. So, through the Shared Microscope blog, she aims to make complicated health medical information simple and to encourage health literacy among patients globally. She's incredibly passionate about preventive medicine and health literacy, and one day she hopes to open a clinic to further her work to improve health literacy and empower patients worldwide. So, with that introduction, we're really happy to have you on our podcast, Nidhi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this is very, very exciting. I'm glad.
Yeah, right. We just had, an hour-long conversation before we actually started this podcast, and we're going to touch upon those topics too because I'm pretty sure our audience would be interested, in those experiences and things like that. But before we move on to this, what made you shift from law to write about medicine and or probably pursue a career in biomedicine? So how did that shift happen?
The shift actually happened the other way around. So I did biomedicine first, and then I moved to law.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
while I was working in law, I did quite a bit in occupational disease law.
Hmm.
So it's essentially, say, if you're at work and something goes wrong, say if you're a manual laborer and
Right.
you're picking things up and dropping them back down, say if you break your back or something on that line happens, then you would essentially sue your employer. I used to
Right.
work within occupational disease, um, and a lot of what I did um, would be going through medical records to just like, say for example, if you worked as a manual laborer and you've been complaining about back pain for months and months and months, and you tell your employer, like, this is what's going on, uh, you know and the employer does nothing,
Right.
then that's obviously a problem. So what I would do is look through the medical records and basically figure out if the case is legitimate. So say if you have a lot of pain, chances are you would go to your doctor. If you go to your doctor, they have medical records, and then based on those, um, I can figure out how legitimate your claim is. Um, so a lot of the times I would read medical records, um, and I would literally be seeing another life, as in, you read about the most intimate details about somebody else, medically and physically.
Right.
So for example, I had this particular client whose son committed suicide, and it was, reading about how he was coping with it. And then there were other times where I would read about, for example, this man who was struggling with diabetes, didn't know why he couldn't control his sugar, did not understand the idea of sugar when it comes to diabetes. Like, when we say sugar, we don't mean just the sugar that we add in our coffee or in our tea or in dessert. It's more than that. There's natural sugars as well. And he for some reason could not wrap his head around it. So one day he goes to the doctor. He was like, "Doctor, I'm really struggling. My blood sugar is out of control, and I have no idea why that is. I didn't put any sugar in my coffee. I haven't had any cake. I haven't had any dessert, but my sugar is still too high."
Mm.
And the doctor was like, "Okay, what have you been eating and drinking?" And he was like, "Oh, well, I didn't eat that much. I just had a little bit of like some toast and just a coffee, but I made sure there was no sugar in it. The doctor was like, okay, anything else? Did you drink anything? He's like, oh yeah, I was just with my mates. I had 2 pints. So, and the doctor was like, you see, that's the problem, because your alcohol has sugar in it. And he was like, well, it wasn't sweet. There was nothing sweet. I chose the most bitter alcohol, and it made no difference. So it was through things like that I started to pick on things. Like, it was through reading these documents that I started to pick on things that, the average person may not fully understand. So health literacy is a problem globally. Like, it costs the United States millions, if not billions of dollars every year. It is a genuine problem everywhere in the world. And I saw that firsthand. I learned it firsthand through my work. So I was like, right, because of this, I'm going to start a blog, because I have the biomedical knowledge for it. I have the legal knowledge as to what it leads to. But I was like, I need to write about the biomedical or the medical side of it. Just, try and explain, what's sugar? What is a vaccine? What is genetics? What does it mean to have, I don't know, diabetes, obesity, the problems that cardiovascular diseases, there's a lot going on across the world, which is preventable. All of this is preventable. A lot of cancers are preventable, but we don't necessarily communicate that with everybody. And that was a problem that I was seeing, like, throughout the work that I did. So I decided to switch gears in a way. And while I was working, I started writing blog posts about it. And then with the pandemic, it became clear that there was an even more, like the need for it was catalyzed. It was accelerated. We needed so many more people to talk science and health than there were people talking science and health. So I was like, right, okay. So I started writing about the pandemic more specifically. And then eventually it kind of, like, the blog took off. So I quit my job, no regrets there. And here we are.
Great. That must have been quite a journey.
A fun one. It was definitely a fun one.
Right.
I would not go back. Not at all.
Right. And that is, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. With the ongoing pandemic, I thought this is definitely a topic that everyone needs to listen to or understand. Especially, I think we've moved from a place where people have now come to understand and accept that this is going to be there for the long term. Like, it's been a year, and when the shutdown started initially, they thought, oh, okay, it's going to be that first 90 days, and then after that, things are going to go get back to normal. But we saw that was not the case. And now I think people are slowly coming to understand that this is going to be here for the next few years. So I think this is the right time to talk about vaccines and, what are the different type of vaccines that are available, and why is this vaccine different from the other, and probably touch upon the aspects of why is it better to take any vaccine than not take, no, with no vaccine at all. So these are some things that, I do have a couple of questions that everybody is wondering about, and all of us have doubts. With a lot of options, we also have doubts. So I try to jot down a few questions that all of us have, like, my friends, my family, who don't belong to the healthcare sector, and these are something that everybody is scared of, or prone to get misinformation from the internet. So I thought, who best to ask than someone who's been actively working on this for the last 1 year. So yeah, let's dive into this first. Can you tell us a bit about the four different varieties of vaccines that are available? Like, you were telling me about the vector vaccines, the RNA vaccines, and then you could probably tell us what are the different vaccines that are available globally, and what category they fall under.
Right. So there's four main types, I think, across the globe, but there's definitely more types, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But for COVID, we've got the mRNA vaccines, we've got adenovirus-based vaccines, we've got inactivated vaccines, and then we've got protein subunit vaccines, and there's I think 1 or 2 DNA-based vaccines that are specifically being made for COVID. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen and then just show you some slides, and then hopefully take it from there. But before I do that, I'm just going to touch up on what a vaccine is as well, because I'm sure there would be somebody or the other. Just a very basic overview of what vaccines are, and then how it comes into like the market essentially, and then I'll go through like, the different types of vaccines. And then if you have any questions, then just kind of bug me through, and that will be fine. But before I start that, I just wanted to just give you like a reminder that even though we've got vaccines, just getting vaccinated today will not mean the end of the pandemic. We need the vaccinations to reach a lot of people, like almost everybody across the globe, for us to move on from the pandemic. So, just because, say, you and I get our vaccines, it does not mean the end of the pandemic. There is a lot more to that equation. So just a heads up on that. But I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm just going to start this. I'll present that. So firstly, what is a vaccine? I'm sure most of you already know this. But a vaccine is a weakened version of a microbe. So in the case of COVID, it's a weakened version of the SARS-CoV-2 virus that we inject into our body or expose our body to, using which our body makes antibodies against that weakened invader. So for SARS-CoV-2, so for COVID, it would be just our body will learn how to fight the weakened version of the virus. So the next time that it does come across it, the body knows how to fight it. So it's like a practice game, You don't go to war without having practiced how to fight. You don't go play a football game without having practiced, every move that you make. So it's the same idea. You expose the body to the virus, and then the body will learn how to fend for itself. And then when it comes to the real deal, it will know how to fight it. So that's essentially the virus, the vaccine. Then I thought I would also touch upon the vaccine development process. So there are a lot of, as you can see, there are a lot of phases to it. You've heard of probably all of it. There's preclinical research, and they do animal studies. So in the preclinical research, they'll establish a vaccine candidate that shows the right effects in a petri dish, or just kind of in a laboratory, in no animals, nothing. It will just be cells. Then if we're happy with the results of that, then we will put it in animal studies. So for COVID, the COVID vaccines, we've been testing the vaccines in all sorts of animals. So we've done rat trials, we've done chimpanzees, we've done macaques, which are another type of monkey. We've done, what else have we done? I think that pretty much covers all of it. But I know some people were also testing in rabbits, and there was some news of llamas. But essentially, you go from preclinical to animal studies. Again, only if you pass animal studies, i.e., if you see that there's protection in the animal from having the vaccine, only then does it go into human phase trials. So human trials would be phase 1, 2, and 3. And then, as you can see on the slide, if you're in phase 1, you'll have around 100 healthy volunteers. So that would be people like me who've got who are quite young, quite healthy, have no underlying conditions, nothing. So quite healthy people, just getting inoculated with the dose. So when I say inoculation, it's just essentially you will be injected with the vaccine candidate. Then they will check my blood to make sure that nothing's going wrong. Because if something's going wrong at any stage, and I mean at any stage of the vaccine development process, the the vaccine doesn't go to the next stage, it gets abandoned.
Right.
So the trials are abandoned. Then in phase 2, they do pretty much the same thing, but they have more volunteers, so more than 100 people in this case, of an intended age/disease. So if, for example, we're testing for COVID, with COVID, we've been quite, well, fortunate/unfortunate, however you want to see it, that affects everybody more or less. So everybody is in the intended age, and everybody is of the intended disease, so to speak. So, a lot of clinical trials would, for example, take into consideration somebody who's healthy, but probably has like mild asthma, for example, just so we know that their bodies can also take it. And then again, you see whether it's safe and effective. For a vaccine to be, given out to the public, it has to be both safe and effective. If it's only safe and has no effective, like if it's not efficient, if it's not effective at all, then it's a waste of everybody's time. They won't do it. Same thing if it's super effective but not safe, nobody's going to want to take it. It will not go forward. And then again, they'll take blood tests, blood samples, make sure that nothing's going completely wrong. And then if they're still happy with it, then it goes into phase 3 trials. Again, we do the same thing over and over again. At this point, you now test in more individuals. So the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, I think they were tested in 30, 40,000 people. Same with the Johnson Johnson. You have a lot of volunteers. You expand the safety database. So again, if you've got asthma, maybe you'll be in this trial. I know a number of the trials, interestingly, were also testing in HIV positive patients.
Right.
If that helps. So, if somebody with HIV, if somebody's HIV positive and you expose them to a virus, or a vaccine, a virus through a vaccine, you want to make sure that it's safe enough for that individual,
Right.
Because they are immunocompromised. So they have tried it on immunocompromised people as well. This kind of speaks to the safety and efficacy side of the trial. And then if we're all happy with it, and only if we're happy, does it go into, the market release side of things. So if it's not safe, if it's not effective, it won't be out there. It will be abandoned. And then the phase 4, that's the lesser known side of the vaccine development process. But that's mainly because it's post-marketing surveillance. So it's already in the market. And for years and years and years, if we're going to use the COVID vaccines, for example, we will keep testing. We will keep looking at rare effects. We will keep looking at the long-term efficacy of it. I mean, we're still doing this for like vaccines that were made in the 2000s even. Like, you do this pretty much for the rest of your life for that particular vaccine. So that's the vaccine development process. Sorry, this probably took a while, but I thought I would cover the very, very, very basics, just to make sure that, we know what we're talking about going further. Then this is a question that I've had a lot. I don't know if this is something that's on your mind as well, but have the vaccines been rushed? To put it simply, no, they haven't. It may seem rushed, but it isn't rushed. The mRNA vaccines that we're using, yes, it was developed, in the last year. All the vaccines for COVID have been developed in the last year, within a year. That seems fast, that seems rushed. But let me tell you that for that to happen, we have been studying these platforms for at least a decade. We've been studying mRNA vaccines for a decade. Just the mRNA platform has been studied for decades. Adenoviruses have been used very, very frequently in science research for decades. So it's not that it's completely new to us and we've just kind of gone with it just because, this looks like an emergency, let's just do whatever we can. No, it comes from research that has taken years and years and years to develop. And we've just, at this point, been able to do this. If we had this pandemic in 2008, 2009, like we did with the swine flu, H1N1 pandemic, we wouldn't have been this ready. We wouldn't have been this good at it. This year has obviously been a good year, so to speak,
Yeah.
because we've
So,
had so much research behind what's going on.
right.
Not mainly, not about the SARS-CoV-2 virus per se, but on everything else about vaccines, all the platforms. So have they been rushed? No. Why has it been at record speed then? Well, because the conditions for development were optimum. Usually, if you have a vaccine that you want to trial, it takes forever to get the right people to be within the phase 1, 2, 3 trials,
Right.
or it takes forever to just trying to recruit people, because you have to recruit 10,000 people for some of these phases. You can't find 10,000 people everywhere. Like, you
Right.
can't find them overnight. But because of the pandemic, because of how COVID affects everybody, there's
Right.
been millions of people that are like, okay, maybe I should sign up to a trial. I've actually got a friend who was on the Oxford AstraZeneca trial.
Mm.
She was one of the first people in the world to get the vaccine because she trusted the process. The recruitment was faster. Overnight, she was like, okay, I volunteer, I'll do it. And there were thousands of people like her who made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Funding has never been a problem with COVID.
Right.
Literally every government worldwide is spending money on research for COVID. It has not been the same for everything else. Like cancer, yes, we have a lot of research money. Antibiotic resistance, not so much. We probably need more.
Mm-hmm.
Collaboration worldwide. So this is also a very big thing. So in the UK, for example, we'd already started work on the AstraZeneca vaccine, and I'm sure this was the same with Moderna in the US. The work on the vaccine had already begun when there were no cases of the virus in the country. And that was because China released very, very quickly the 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 genetic sequence of the virus, which every country in the world received just in time to start making these vaccines. That's why
Yeah.
Moderna, I mean, fun fact, Moderna went from that beginning of having a sequence to phase 1 clinical trials in humans in 42 days. And that was because of quick research collaboration worldwide
Right.
with
Right.
funding, and because of the global public health problem. If you take any of these out of the equation, it would probably have been slower.
Right.
But
Right.
we had the optimal we had the optimal everything for research. Everything, all the conditions for research were perfect, which is why we've got more than 10 vaccines that are in development and phase 3 trials today.
Mm.
So just to say, no, the vaccines weren't rushed.
Right.
Then I'm not sure if you want me to cover traditional vaccine types, but I'm going to quickly go over the
Oh,
ones that
yeah,
are
sure.
of relevance to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different types of vaccines traditionally. So a live attenuated vaccine is where the virus is weakened in the lab. So as you can see from
Right.
the photo here,
Mm-hmm.
it's, you injure
Right.
the virus so it can't fight you as strongly as it can.
Right.
It's wounded, so it can't hurt you. So your body is more likely to be able to fight this off because it's already injured. So that's kind of what a live attenuated vaccine does. So it's alive but injured.
This is typically all the vaccines that we've been given, right? Like the polio vaccine or the tetanus, sorry, not the tetanus, the,
I'm
penicillin and things
actually
like that, I
not
think.
sure.
Okay.
But we've throughout our childhood had a lot of these for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not sure about the exact type of vaccine
Specifics of it.
that
Right.
we've had, but we've had all of them in our lifetime. We have.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
then there's the inactivated virus vaccine, which,
Mm-hmm.
as you can see here, it's this little RIP, the virus is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do with these ones is you make up, you basically take the virus, let it grow, you harvest it essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just go through and inactivate all of it, or if you prefer to use the word kill, you kill all the virus particles so they can no longer cause disease. You can do the inactivation with heat or with specific chemicals. And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously once something's dead, it can't replicate. So
Right.
I can give you as much of this as possible, but it's not going to replicate. Too much
Mm-hmm.
will definitely be a problem, but it can't replicate.
Mm-hmm.
So your body can fight off something that's dead because it's dead. And then this was these vaccines are also very, very safe for use in immunocompromised individuals,
Right.
and they usually require booster shots. So an inactivated vaccine would probably require 2 or 3 boosters. So, for example, with COVID, there are quite a lot of inactivated vaccines
Mm-hmm.
that are currently in use, actually. Um, so pretty much all the vaccines coming out of China are of the inactivated vaccine type. The
Mm-hmm.
Bharat Biotech vaccine from India is of the
Mm-hmm.
inactivated type.
Okay.
So all they've done is grow it in bulk, kill it all, and then inject you with it, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
good to go. Then there's a subunit vaccine, which if you, from the image, I'm just going to try and explain it. It's you take one part of the virus. So here
Mm-hmm.
you've just taken the head, you've left the body. So you just take the head and you use only the head. And obviously, again, it only has one tiny fragment of the virus. That is also modified so it can't cause any disease, as in it can't replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's safe for use in an immunocompromised individual, and it may require a booster. Um, with the subunit vaccine, there is one that I know of that is in phase 3, I think, or maybe I think it's in phase 3 clinical trial / on the side of um, being used, globally, is the
Mm-hmm.
Novavax vaccine. So that's a protein subunit vaccine. So for the Novavax vaccine, all that they've done is take the spike protein, which I will
Mm-hmm.
explain in a bit,
Right.
and then they've taken that spike protein, grown that in bulk, and inject you with it, and you're good to go. Toxoid vaccines, I'm just going to skip over this slide because none of the COVID vaccines are of this type. So
Okay.
just going
Okay.
to
So I
that.
agree.
Then there's non-traditional vaccine types. There's the DNA RNA
RNA.
vaccines, which you probably are hearing a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the viral vectors, which are the adenovirus-based vaccines.
Right.
And these I will explain to you further as well. So like I said before, to understand the DNA RNA vaccines and the adenovirus vaccines, it is very, very important for you to understand the spike protein. So the spike protein is what actually is the key to the lock.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is in an infection, when the SARS-CoV-2 virus is trying to infect you, what it does is the entire virus will try and enter your body and enter the cells. But to enter your cells, it needs the key to the door,
Right.
essentially. And that key is the spike protein. If you
Mm-hmm.
remove the spike protein from the virus, it can no longer affect you. It is genuinely the most important part of this virus to cause infection. So what it does is it will basically come in, open the door being the ACE2 receptors, which are found on pretty much most of our cells, like all of our
Mm-hmm.
endothelial cells have it. So
Mm-hmm.
all the cells in your lungs are infected with COVID because they have ACE2 receptors. They've got that particular door to which to which the virus has the key. So the way that the virus works is it will come in and then it will open that lock on the door and then infect you. But if you take away the key, it can't infect you anymore. It can't break into your cell. It can't break
Right.
into your body. It has to have that key. So most of the vaccines that are in development or that have already been developed are trying to exploit the spike protein.
Mm-hmm.
So what everybody's trying to do is give your body the information that it needs to understand what this special magic key is. If your body then knows that, oh, this is what they're using, this is what the invader is using, it knows where to block it. So that's essentially what the vaccines are doing. They're taking, most of the vaccines are taking advantage of this. They're giving you the information about the key, and then they're just like, right, maybe we need to change our locks, but we can't do that as quickly, so we're just going to try and find all the keys and try and stop them there. And that's essentially what the virus is. That's essentially what the vaccines, and more particularly the DNA, RNA vaccines and the viral vectors, that's what they're aiming to do. Like I said earlier, the inactivated types, there's the ones coming out of China. So there's Sinovac's Coronavac, there's Sinopharm's BB, IBP, CorV, and there's Parrot Biotech's Covaxin. These are like the top. These are the top inactivated vaccines, and then, like I said, about the Novavax vaccine as well. I also thought, if you're interested in knowing more about Novavax and how the vaccine is made, I find this incredibly interesting. So what they do is they'll take the little, they'll take the information about the spike protein from the virus, make DNA out of it, put it into a virus called a baculovirus, which does not infect humans, but it infects insect cells. So what they do is they take the virus that has the viral DNA and inject it, as you can see here. They inject it, or they expose the insect cell to it. Once the insect cell has been exposed, it starts making the spike proteins. The spike proteins are then brought to the surface of the insect cell, at which point we genuinely just kind of pluck them out. And then what you have at the end of the day is a lot of spike proteins, as you can see here.
Right.
And then those spike proteins are purified, just to make sure that we're not putting in anything that is not needed into the body. So just to be on the safer side, you purify everything.
Right.
You don't want to put any kind of dirt with it. And then once a spike protein is injected in our body recognizes it and is like, that doesn't belong here. We've never seen that before. And it will start attacking just the spike protein. But like I said before, if you attack the spike protein, if you stop the spike protein in its tracks, the virus can no longer cause infection. So just using the spike proteins, we're learning how to fight the virus to prevent future infection when you are exposed to the real thing. So that's how the Novavax vaccine works. And I find it very interesting because the whole manufacturing happens in an insect. I mean, how cool is that? How does that happen?
Yeah. And where exactly is Novavax available? Which part of the world?
I think it would be in the US, but I'm not completely sure. I think Novavax is an American company. Let's have a look.
Yeah, it's a mix, looks like.
Is it American?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's not.
I think it might be American, but.
Oh, it says UK, phase 3 UK.
Where is it made? Let's just do it this way. Yeah, Fujifilm. Ooh. Oh, it is an American vaccine. Yeah, here it is. If you trust Wikipedia. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's being given out here. Like, we pretty much have the 3 vaccines.
I think they might be in phase 3 clinical trials still.
Oh, right. Okay.
But don't quote me on that.
Okay.
They've been in phase 3 for a while now. But I think as more vaccines become available, the clinical trials are going down. You see, like Just
Yeah.
because now there's something available, we're like, okay, let's just focus on what we've got and get those
Hmm.
out there to
Right.
get as
Right.
many people
Hmm.
vaccinated as possible. So anyway, that's the Novavax vaccine. It's a protein subunit, so you basically go from all of that, which is the actual SARS-CoV-2 structure, to
Hmm.
just the spike proteins, which
Spike
you will be
protein.
injected with.
Right.
And then there's the non-traditional types of vaccines. So like I said, DNA, RNA, viral vectors, etc., etc. So the Moderna vaccine, you've probably heard tons about this.
Right.
It's mainly being used in the US. They're holding on to
Hmm.
their vaccines.
Right.
But I think we recently got some of these in the UK, I think last month.
Hmm.
So we're finally seeing the Moderna vaccine in the UK as well. So these ones are quite interesting. So the way I like to explain these is, think of an envelope with instructions in it. So this is quite similar. So what I would do instead of the envelope, it's a lipid nanoparticle.
Hmm.
So it's just a layer of fat. It's like a little globule of fat. And then inside of that, there's all the information in mRNA form. And then you basically take that information, you give it to your body. Your body recognizes the information and starts to make the spike protein again.
Right.
And then once the spike protein is made, the body's like, that doesn't look right. We don't recognize that. And then it makes the antibodies, it brings in its entire army to destroy the spike protein. Once the spike protein is destroyed, your body has learned how to fight the spike protein.
Right.
Therefore, when you're exposed to the real thing, i.e. the real virus, your body's already like, oh, okay, we know that's the magic key. We've got to stop that. And then it will raise all of its defenses and all's good. You won't get as sick anymore.
Mm.
That's the Moderna vaccine. The other mRNA vaccines also work in the same way. So the Pfizer vaccine kind of has the same science to it.
Mm-hmm.
So does the, the Pfizer vaccine
Me
has the
too.
same
Yeah.
science to it as well. So essentially, most of the vaccines, like I said, they provide the body with information about the spike protein, if not the spike protein itself. The body makes the spike protein, or the body is exposed to the spike protein, and then it learns how to fight it. And then when it does come to having the actual infection, the body has already figured it out. The body has learned how to fight it. The body has practiced how to fight it, and the body will never forget. So we're all prepared to fight the virus. So we're prepared to fight COVID-19. Like I said, the Pfizer one, pretty similar in what it does. You take the mRNA, you give the mRNA to the individual, they make the
Mm-hmm.
protein, and then based on that protein, we fight off. You make the protein, so the protein here being the spike protein. And then once that's injected into the body, once the mRNA is injected in the body makes the protein, recognizes, that doesn't look right. We've never seen this before. That does not belong in the human body. Let's fight it off. Let's dispose of it. And then, you basically dispose it off. So that's the other mRNA vaccine. Then there's the adenovirus-based vaccines. I like thinking about these as a cut, copy, paste mechanism. It's kind of like a collage. You cut what you want, remove what you don't want, copy it to wherever you want to put it, and then you paste it all together. So I made this poster a while ago. This was probably in June, July last year. So parts of the information, like this bit, is probably redundant now, but the rest of it still fits.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is here you've got the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Here you've got the adenovirus, which adenoviruses cannot infect humans. They infect chimpanzees usually. You take both of those and you cut out what you want. So here we want just the mRNA, which is the genetic matter.
Mm-hmm.
Here you want the actual shell, and then you just take that. Both of them are modified so that they should not be able to infect humans. So you modify them just to be on the safer side.
Mm-hmm.
Then you like what you see, you copy it. You make tons of copies, and then you paste them together. You take the little bit from the outside, so the capsule here, which is modified, and then you take the RNA bits, you put them in, you basically made a little capsule, and then you
made a virus of your own.
Yeah. And then you use that to, so this is what the final person will be injected with.
Right.
That's the active ingredient of the virus, of the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, because it has been modified so that it can no longer cause infection, like cause disease, you will probably just feel a little bit shite after you take the vaccine, because your immune system is working. If you feel tired, if you feel you've got a fever, if you feel, you've got chills, if you feel a little bit of arm pain, like sore after you get the vaccine, that is all normal. That is telling you the vaccine is working, because it recognizes that this does not belong in our body. It teaches our body how to fight it, and then the body throws it off. It's like, okay, yep, you're done, you're out. And then when you are exposed to the actual virus and the SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins, the body knows how to fight it. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're just preparing our body for the worst type of infection by giving it just a tiny bit of sniffles, so that it can, so that we don't have so many people dying from it, so that we don't have so many people hospitalized because of it. That's essentially what the vaccine does. It reduces, is 100% effective at reducing death or hospitalization. And that's the idea of it. Our health systems are overwhelmed. We're trying to we're trying to take that pressure off of them. Healthcare providers, they're super busy, they're working around the clock. Nurses, doctors, you name it. It's been an insane year, and we're just trying to give them some more time by vaccinating everybody. So that's how the adenovirus-based vaccine works. And that's, again, quite similar for how the Johnson & Johnson vaccine works, because it's based on the science behind it is the same. So you cut, copy, paste what you want, you remove what you don't want, you put them together, you make a little collage of your new virus, which is an adenovirus, with the genetic information that's necessary to make the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. You inject it into the person, and then you're good to go. You're not going to be as badly infected once you've got the vaccine. So yeah, that's all the main types of vaccines. What I do also want to talk about is the Medicago vaccine. So I wrote an article about this for Bolded Science. So the Medicago vaccine for me has been very, very interesting, because it has been made in tobacco plants. So what it does is you take a bacterium, you put all the information necessary to make the virus into it, and then you expose the plant to it. This particular plant has undergone a lot of, it's kind of changed throughout its own lifetime to be able to survive drought. So when there was not enough water, what it did was it gave up its perfectly healthy immune system to make it such that it can survive terrible weather conditions.
Right.
And now what we're using it for is we just take the virus, we take the information about the virus, give it to the plant, and the plant is like, okay, this don't look right. And then it will just make something that resembles the virus.
Wow.
So it's not the virus, it's a virus-like particle. It's called a VLP. So as you can see from these two images, this is what the SARS-CoV-2 virus looks like. This is just the wild type, what it would look like if it's infecting anybody. And the Medicago virus-like particle looks quite similar to that. You can see the little protrusions of the spike
Right.
protein. So you can see little protrusions here, but it can't do anything. It just looks like it, but it's nothing like it. It's like a little capsule that looks the same, but
Right.
literally has no genetic material of its
Material.
own. That's literally what it is. And I absolutely love the technology that goes behind that.
Right.
Um, and then I think you also might want to know about the Zydus Cadilla vaccine.
Oh, that's new. I haven't
So,
heard
so the
about that.
Zydus one, it's made in India. It's probably the first ever DNA based vaccine
Mm-hmm.
in development, and it's quite interesting. So it brings up a lot of questions for a lot of people. Oh my God, it's DNA based. It's going to change my genetics. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Because it says DNA, but from the research that we've seen so far, that should not be the case. It's a tiny plasmid. So plasmid is a closed form of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So just basic human biology. Our DNA is in strands, so it's open
Right.
at the ends. So for something to become attached into our body and our genetic information, it has to be a strand as well. If it's
Mm-hmm.
round, it can't do anything because it's round. So that's what the plasmid does. The plasmid is round, so it can't integrate into the DNA strands that we have within our own body. So it's quite interesting that the vaccine is quite interesting because one, it's DNA based, and more specifically plasmid based. It's currently in phase 3 clinical trials. I think
Okay.
most of it is being conducted in Gujarat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I find most interesting about it is the way that it is administered. So, when you go to a vaccine clinic, you get a jab. They've got those needles that look scary, and then you just kind of get jabbed in, and they just do their thing.
Right.
But a lot of people are scared of needles. So with the Zydus Cadilla, what they've done is some of the participants get the vaccine just as normal. You get a needle, kind of
Mm-hmm.
a proper needle jab,
Mm-hmm.
but they've also got a needle-free technology.
Interesting.
So this is where it gets interesting. So it's kind of like a water gun, like a little pitchkari. So you just take
Uh-huh.
one of those, and then with just high pressure, they will
Right.
they will inject it into your skin.
Okay.
But
Right.
it
Hmm.
obviously is not the same as inserting a needle through your skin. It's just literally it it's just squirting water at a very, very fine, well, I say water, it's squirting um the DNA plasmid that they have
Right.
created through a very, very fine water gun, essentially. And because it's so fine and high pressured, it can just kind of go through the skin to
And hit
wherever
the
it needs to go. And
right.
I mean, it's interesting. It's absolutely fantastic what people have done throughout the pandemic. Like the research
Right.
from the
Yeah.
pandemic has been so good. Um, there's another one. I don't remember the exact details of it, but these ones are like patches. You get nicotine patches for
Nicotine
people that
patches.
are trying to quit smoking. It's a patch. It doesn't hurt. It's painless. You just stick it on your arm, and there you go. That's your vaccine. And those are
Hmm.
also in development. I think there was a university in the US that was doing it, and then there was a
Mm-hmm.
university in the UK that's also studying it. But I'm not
Okay.
sure if they've kind of abandoned the trials or not. But
It's
it's
in the
it's a good
process.
time to research it because maybe it won't be ready for COVID, but it might be ready further down the line when we do need it. And
Right.
it's great because it increases access to so many countries, like countries where we don't have cold chain facilities, countries where it's usually very, very hot, countries
Mm-hmm.
where access to healthcare and more particularly the vaccines is a problem.
Right.
Take a pad, stick it on, done.
Right.
What else do you
Yeah.
want? So
Right.
I find that very, very interesting. I'm sorry if I kind of ended
No,
up
no,
good.
go ahead. Yeah, like this is pretty interesting. Like I haven't read about these, but like you rightly said, like transporting these would be pretty easy, and again, accessibility. It could be maybe cheaper, and I mean, efficacy. That is coming to the second part of it, but
Yeah,
like we discussed, anything is better than nothing.
yeah,
So to
and like
start off with,
and the reason that these are great is because there's so many people that are scared of needles.
right?
So
Yeah,
we're looking away from needles. There are actually some. I think we had trials in the UK that were looking at nasal sprays for COVID. So you just kind
nasal
of
spray. Oh yeah.
you
I've
kind of
read
go
about
in,
them.
and then you're done. That's
Yeah,
your vaccine. With
right.
polio, the reason we've moved forward so much is because you
It
get
was
polio drops
yeah,
that they
oral.
mouth.
Yeah,
Yes, So it's the pandemic has accelerated research within vaccination, like the
right.
whole vaccination side of things, like the whole sector, the whole field of it has
Mm, right,
completely changed in a year. I mean, the change was coming. It was coming. It would have been there, but it's just been accelerated so much because we needed this and we needed it fast. And we've
right.
done it. We've done it absolutely well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
One year, I know the whole world was. I think other research projects took a back seat, and a lot of funds, a lot of time was invested in this, and that is why we are where we are. Like we could have been in a worse situation, but
Yeah.
whatever is going on, I think we just we science
Yeah.
has definitely helped us in the last 1 year. It has been
100
helping us, and
100%. Like even with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, they were actually studying this for, I think it was MERS or SARS, like the first one, the
hmm
first coronaviruses that we were dealing with. That's
right.
what the clinical trials were going on for right
hmm
now. And then
Yeah,
as soon as the pandemic hit, they were like, right, let's shift gears. We've got a new vaccine to make based on an old vaccine that we've already made, which is why they were
right,
so quick,
right,
so quick. Within days, they had candidates. Within days, those candidates were tested in in a laboratory, and then in animals. They didn't even have to do as much of work because they'd already done that work. They've been doing that work for 3 to 5 years already.
right,
So all we needed to do was, oh, okay, this little ingredient we've got here, let's just replace the salt for the pepper and it will be fine. you
right.
know and then it was fine. It has been fine. We've been doing pretty well in terms of that, because
hmm
and like I said, it's not completely new. It's new to
Right,
the world because not everybody knew about it.
right,
People are learning
right,
about mRNA vaccines for the first time this year. But
right,
people who've
right,
been developing the mRNA vaccines and the technology behind the mRNA vaccines, they've known it for 10 years at least.
right.
So yes, it's new,
Yeah,
and it's new to us, as in it's new to a non-science individual. But within the sciences, it doesn't seem that new. We've known all of
right,
it.
right,
We're building on what we know, and I think that message needs to be conveyed a million times over and a million times over again. And I think we've been doing it. We've been doing it really well. We've been talking about a lot of news sites and newspapers and news channels have picked on it. It's not new. It's not like we just woke up one day and we gave everybody this. It has been
right,
researched, but there are people that are still scared. you know
right,
and fear is normal. Don't punish fear. Take that fear, learn about it
right,
from vetted experts that you can trust, and take it from there. you
right,
know you're allowed to make decisions, but you have to have all the facts to make the decision. So here are the
right,
facts. you know we haven't built it overnight. The research has been conducted for years and years and years, and it works.
mm,
So many people are getting vaccinated. So many people have a new lease on life, more or less. The clinical trials from Israel. So Israel has vaccinated a whole ton of its
right.
population,
I
like,
guess 50, more than 50%
I'm
is
not sure
what I,
how many, not gonna
yeah.
lie, but
hmm
they are obviously people vaccinated. They're towards the end of the pandemic, so to speak. or at least for
Mhm.
now, there are new variants or whatever happens. But for this phase that we're in, they're doing pretty good. They've got everything. They've vaccinated so many individuals. The hospitalization rates have gone down. The death rates have gone down. The severe symptom rates have gone down. Maybe people are still getting mild infection, but it's mild. That's the whole point.
Right.
People aren't dying. People aren't miserably sick. People aren't in the
Right.
hospital for days and days and days. People don't have long COVID. It is helping, it is changing. And that's the message we need to keep reminding people about. Because, yes, there are fears, there will always be fears. But at the end of the day, getting something that will reduce your chance of terrible, terrible infection, reduce your chance of
Right.
death, that's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
chance worth taking, at least in my
Right.
opinion. Sign me up, I'll take that risk, because I'd rather feel off for 2 days than have problems breathing for 3 months or even the rest of
Right.
my life. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know everything, but that's
We don't
normal.
know. Yeah.
We're living it. We're living it. We're breathing it right now.
Right.
What we know now is all we know now. We might know more. We will know more in
We
the
will know
future.
more. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
today, this is all we know. So
Right.
communicate what we know. Don't fear it. Learn it, and we'll be good.
Yep. That's the way to go.